Imagine Canada in the mid-19th century. A collection of scattered colonies stretched across a vast, untamed continent. Mountains soared, endless prairies rolled. They were united by little more than a shared dream of nationhood, yet divided by immense distances and formidable natural barriers. How do you forge a country from such a fragmented wilderness? The audacious answer, a desperate gamble, was a transcontinental railway. In 1867, the Dominion of Canada was born, but its foundation felt precarious. British Columbia, a prosperous colony on the Pacific, hesitated to join. Their unwavering demand, a railway connecting them to the rest of Canada within 10 years. This promise became a national imperative. Without a rapid, reliable link, British Columbia might seek annexation with the United States. The railway was vital for political unity. It would bind the new nation, fulfilling the dream of sea to sea. Beyond politics, it was an economic lifeline. Canada's interior held vast untapped wealth: timber, minerals, vast fertile land on the prairies. Without efficient transport, these riches remained dormant. Waterways were slow, often impractical. The railway would unlock these resources, open new markets, and spark unprecedented growth. It promised to transform the prairies into a breadbasket, attracting settlers and fueling industry. Finally, defense and sovereignty were paramount. The long undefended border with the United States was a constant worry. A railway meant swift troop movement, strengthening Canada's ability to protect its territory. This was more than just a grand project. It was a desperate race to secure a nation's future. So the vision was clear. But how do you lay thousands of miles of track across some of the most brutal terrain on Earth? This was a story of superhuman effort, relentless ingenuity, and immense sacrifice. The ambitious plan was straightforward: build from both ends of the country and meet somewhere in the vast interior. Construction would push westward from Ontario and eastward from British Columbia. Their ultimate meeting point was designated as Craigellachie in the rugged mountains of British Columbia. This dual-front approach required a monumental workforce, with thousands of laborers eventually deployed across both construction fronts, each facing unique and formidable challenges. The construction began in earnest in 1881. Work officially started simultaneously from two main points. From the east, groundbreaking occurred at Callander, Ontario, near what is now North Bay. Here, crews pushed westward, directly into the granite heart of the Canadian Shield. From the west, construction launched from Port Moody, British Columbia, though this terminal later shifted to Vancouver. These western crews immediately faced the daunting task of carving a path eastward through the formidable coast mountains. The very first steps involved immense land clearing, leveling the ground, and building foundational trestles and embankments. The unforgiving Canadian landscape immediately revealed its true nature. In northern Ontario, the impenetrable Canadian Shield loomed. Crews faced solid granite. They blasted and cut their way through rock, inch by grueling inch. It was slow, dangerous work. Next came the prairies. While seemingly flat, they offered their own brutal challenges. Extreme weather hammered the crews, from scorching summers to brutal winters of deep snow and blizzards. Logistical nightmares plagued every mile. Transporting supplies, food, and workers to remote sites was a constant, exhausting battle against scale and climate. But the ultimate test lay in the Rocky Mountains of British Columbia. This was a land of towering peaks, sheer cliffs, and raging rivers. Building a railway here meant carving a path directly through solid rock. Tracks often hung precariously over deep chasms. Tunnels had to be bored through colossal mountains. Bridges had to span impossible gaps. Steep gradients demanded daring engineering solutions. To conquer these immense challenges, a vast army of laborers was urgently needed. Contractors recruited from various backgrounds, but a substantial and tragically essential part of this workforce came from China. Between 1881 and 1885, thousands of Chinese immigrants arrived in British Columbia, mostly from Guangdong province. They sought opportunity, a desperate escape from poverty and famine in their homeland. The railway offered work, no matter how dangerous or poorly compensated. These Chinese laborers were consistently assigned the most perilous tasks. They blasted through mountains with highly unstable nitroglycerin. They dug tunnels by hand in cramped, suffocating conditions. They cleared treacherous rockfalls. They endured risks that many others refused. Explosions were frequent. Rock slides were common. Accidents occurred almost daily. Their pay was significantly lower than that of white laborers, often half the wage. They were also forced to pay for their own food and lodging, which was consistently subpar. Their living conditions were deplorable, flimsy tents or rudimentary shacks offering little protection from the elements. Sickness, like scurvy and dysentery, ravaged the camps, compounded by a desperate lack of sanitation and medical care. It's estimated that at least 600 Chinese laborers died during the railway's construction. Some historians believe the number well exceeded 1,000, with many deaths unrecorded. They died from rock slides, explosions, disease, starvation, and exposure. Their immense sacrifice, largely unacknowledged at the time, was a foundational element in the railway's completion. They literally built a nation with their blood and sweat, facing dangers no one else would accept. As the railway pushed across the country, it also brought devastating consequences for indigenous communities. Construction directly disrupted traditional hunting grounds and sacred sites. The railway's presence and the wave of settlers it enabled led to significant displacement for many indigenous peoples. Their traditional economies were shattered. Diseases spread rapidly. The railway accelerated the imposition of colonial policies, contributing profoundly to systemic injustices that continue to impact indigenous peoples. Despite these immense human and environmental costs, the project pressed on. Visionary leadership was crucial. Sir John A. Macdonald, Canada's first Prime Minister, gambled his political career on its success. George Stephen, the first CPR president, was a financial wizard, securing the staggering funds required. William Cornelius Van Horn, the general manager of construction, was a relentless force. He famously declared, "I sleep with it. I eat with it. I think of nothing else." He drove his crews relentlessly, often personally inspecting every mile of track. The engineering genius of Sanford Fleming, who expertly surveyed vast portions of the route, cannot be overstated. Their drive, their stubborn refusal to quit, ensured the railway's progress. Finally, on November 7, 1885, at Craigellachie, British Columbia, the last spike was driven. It was not a golden spike like the American counterpart, but an ordinary iron one, hammered in by Donald Smith, a key financier. It was a simple, understated moment. Yet, it marked the completion of an extraordinary feat. The Canadian Pacific Railway was finished. The impossible dream had become reality. The completion of the Canadian Pacific Railway irrevocably changed the course of Canadian history. Its legacy is a complex blend of triumphs and enduring shadows. On the one hand, it achieved its grandest promise. It united Canada, physically and symbolically. British Columbia was firmly linked, solidifying the Dominion from coast to coast and fostering a stronger national identity. Economically, it became Canada's backbone. It enabled the rapid settlement of the West, transforming prairies into productive farmlands. It opened vast new markets for Canadian resources, from timber to minerals to agricultural products, driving industrial growth and creating countless jobs. It also pioneered Canadian tourism, building magnificent hotels and drawing visitors to the nation's stunning landscapes. Crucially, it boosted Canada's defense, proving its strategic value during the Northwest Rebellion when troops were swiftly deployed, a feat utterly impossible without the railway. Yet, this monumental achievement carries deep scars. The exploitation of Chinese laborers stands as a grave injustice. While their brutal working conditions ended with the railway's completion, their suffering continued through discriminatory policies like the head tax and the Chinese Exclusion Act. These acts of legalized racism are direct consequences of the era. The railway also inflicted profound and lasting harm on indigenous communities. It accelerated land dispossession and cultural disruption, contributing to systemic injustices that persist today. The project was also marred by political scandal, notably the Pacific Scandal. which revealed widespread corruption among government and railway magnates, highlighting the immense power wielded by private interests. Furthermore, the CPR's near monopoly on transportation for decades led to high freight rates that burdened Western farmers and businesses, particularly in the West. This created lasting resentment and fueled long-standing calls for greater government regulation and the establishment of competing railway lines. Despite its significant downsides, the Canadian Pacific Railway stands as a monument to human ambition, engineering prowess, and the determination to forge a nation against overwhelming odds. It created the Canada we know today, but it also serves as a potent reminder of the human costs often buried beneath grand achievements. It is a complex legacy, one of triumph interwoven with tragedy, a story that continues to resonate across the iron spine of this diverse nation. Thank you for watching. If you learned something new or just love a good story, hit that like button, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss a journey into the past.